I think, however, my position is echoed by millions of people across Britain who just felt it was completely out of order to call this far right at the time. And we've seen that governments have to be forced kicking and screaming into giving us inquiries over things like rape gangs.
Absolutely.
So perhaps the cynicism isn't misplaced.
No, absolutely. I think that when you want to look at investigations like this, you want to find the root causes of why those terrible scenes took place last summer. And this isn't to condone the violence and the destruction of property, but we want to avoid that from taking place in the future. So I think that in terms of the investigation, I want to see, to what extent do people believe that there is genuine two-tier governance in modern Britain, for example. I think that we've made significant strides in terms of racial equality, but perhaps the pendulum has swung so far in the other direction. Some people may perceive minorities to be the beneficiaries of preferential treatment, especially when it comes to matters of law and order. I think that we have to look at the economics, social factors as well. I think that the problem surrounding the small boats emergency, I think that puts a magnificent strain on social cohesion in some of the most deprived parts of the country. And it's often justified because housing costs are lower there. That is why we should distribute asylum seekers, in my view, many being illegal migrants, to the poorest towns and parts of the country. But that can place a magnificent strain when it comes to social relations. And I think that more generally, I think there's many parts of the country, they're fundamentally left behind and they've been starved of meaningful investment for decades. So it needs to be a very wide-reaching, all-encompassing investigation. And I'm certainly encouraged by the involvement of the likes of John Cruddas, who's actually quite big in the blue Labour tendency, and that's one that I support a great deal.
Rakib, may I ask you, as a Muslim man yourself, we speak often about this word Islamophobia is brandished about. Labour Party seems to be intent on strengthening the powers that may give. That could be a concern. It's not Islamophobic to question issues of, for example, the cover-up around the rape gang inquiries. It's not Islamophobic to speak out and question anything. Do you fear that part of the reason for the anger and frustration that the white working classes in particular felt last summer started years ago? And it started because a lot of those people feel like they've been treated as second-class citizens in their own country for too long.
No, I think that the argument this was some kind of flash in the pan, that's not correct at all in my view. I think that this has been brewing for some time. I think that when you look at the grooming gangs, for example, I think it was a shame that it took the government as long as it did to commit to a national statutory inquiry. But I don't think this is the fault of only public institutions who are nervous over matters of race, political correctness, and there was certainly victim-blaming tendencies within those institutions. I think there's certain communities, especially segregated communities of Mapuri origin, I think they need to have a good look at themselves, to be honest. And I think that, you could talk about family unity, community spirit, tight-knit networks. But there's
you
so
live
much
in Luton, so you see this every day.
Yeah, but I think that there's an ugly side to that as well, where you have networks where you have these cultural codes based on secrecy and protection. And I think that is very important that with that particular statutory inquiry, that those cultural factors are investigated and how they're associated in terms of Biradari-style clannishness being connected to grooming gang activity.